Hey everybody, today we are kind of moving into a new concept. When you get through the end of it, you might be asking, why are we doing these weird puzzle things? I promise it has a meaning, and it really helps us doing something that we're going to start on Friday, I believe. So stick with me through this. They're kind of like little brain teaser puzzles, again, that they will help us in the future. They are called diamond problems. And what a diamond problem is we have two numbers, A and B. So remember, A and B, they're just variables. I could put 7 and 3 or whatever numbers I want there. Up top, I put their product, so I multiply them. On the bottom, I put their sum, so I add them. So, for example, I started off with 5 and 6. Well, I'll switch to a highlighter. 5 plus 6. What's 5 plus 6? Well, you should know that's 11. Oh, wrong color. I should put that in red. 11. Now up top, I have 5 times 6. 5 times 6, 5, 10, 50, you should get 30. 30 goes on top. So that's the start of these diamond problems. Sum up top, product up top, you multiply to the top, add on the bottom. Okay, next up, if you want to pause the video, I'll do the first one and then you guys try the next two. That'd be completely fine. So I'll go through this first one. First thing we're going to do is 6 plus 2. 6 plus 2. Hopefully you know that is 8. Okay, now 6 times 2. 6 times 2, 12. Done. Okay, I want you guys to try the next two problems on your own. Pause the video, and then I will go through them. Okay, next up we have 3 plus 7. You should put 10. That's when you're adding. 3 times 7. 3 times 7 is 21. If you want to use a calculator for this just to make sure you're doing it, that's fine. But hopefully by the end of this, some of these mental math facts are kind of sticking with you. Okay, next one, I'm adding in some negatives. So what if we did negative 2 plus 5? Again, if you want to use a calculator, that's fine. Or think of it as money. If you owe someone $2, you give them 5. Whichever way you do it, you should get 3. Okay, I'm going to switch the colors there. I should have tried to color code this. It's kind of hard. Negative 2 plus 5 should be 3. Now up top, negative 2 times 5, a negative times a positive. That should give you a negative. 2 times 5, 10. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of mix it up a little. Now, remember, multiplying was on top. Multiply, multiply, multiply. Adding was on bottom. So now I'm given two different numbers. So now you got to ask yourself, hey, what number times 4 is 12? But now it's a negative 4 and a negative 12. So we want our final answer to be negative. We have a negative here, which tells us this one should be positive. And then 3 times 4 is 12. Okay, now once we figure out the number on the left, then we can figure out the adding number on the bottom. So now 3 plus negative 4. 3 plus negative 4, we should get negative 1. Okay, next up, number 2 again. If you want to try numbers 2 and 3 here, you can pause the video. I'll start talking in about 5 seconds. Okay, so we have negative 6 times what number is negative 18? Well, again, a negative times a positive would give us a negative. So we know this number should be positive, this one that goes in the squiggly spot. And then negative 6 times 3 is 18. Now we go through and we add them on the bottom. And we're going to say negative 6 plus 3. You owe someone $6, you give them 3. It is now negative 3 on bottom. Okay, for number 3, 7 times what number is 70? Well, you should say, 7 times, 7 times 10 is 70. Now we can do the bottom part, I can't talk. 7 plus 10 is 17 on the bottom. Okay, I want you guys to try these 3 now. Actually, I'll do the first and you guys can try the next 3. Sorry about that, I kind of misspoke. So now, again, it's multiply up top, add on the bottom. Multiply up top, add to the bottom, multiply up top, add to the bottom. So let's go through this first one. We need what number plus 3 is 4? Well, what number, I misspoke. What number, so we're going to do, let me erase this. Boom and boom. We're going to do yellow plus yellow equals green. So what number plus 4 is 3? Well, think, to go from 4 to 3, we got to go down by 1, or in other words, 4 minus 1 is 3, or negative 1 plus 4 is 3, or 4 minus 1 is 3. Whichever way you want to think about it, this has to be a negative 1. Again, we are adding on the bottom. Okay, up top, we need to do yellow times yellow. So negative 1 times 4, we should get negative 4 up top. Okay, again, if you want to pause the video or if you want to watch me, I'm going to stay quiet for about 5 seconds, and you can try the next one. Okay, we are doing yellow plus yellow equals blue on the bottom. So what number plus 5 is 8? Or 5 plus what number is 8? You should say, well, 5 plus 3 is 8. Now up top, we're going to do yellow times yellow. Yellow times. So 5 times 3, we should get 15. Okay, last one. So now we're doing 10 plus what number is 8? Well, 10 minus 2 is 8. Or 10 plus negative 2. Now, to do the top part, we need to multiply them. So 10 times negative 2. 10 times negative 2 is negative 20. Okay, next up, this is kind of what we're working towards now. So remember, we had multiply up top, multiply, and add on the bottom. I'll even change the color. Plus. Okay, I'm going to do the first one, then I want you guys to do the next ones. Okay, so I'm looking for numbers that multiply to 10. What are numbers that you know that multiply to 10? Well, 1 and 10, or 2 and 5. Which one of these can you get 7 out of by adding and subtracting? Well, hopefully you say, well, 2 plus 5 is 7. Again, 2 plus 5 is 7. Now, 2 times 5 is 10. Boom, we're finished. Okay, I want you guys to try the next two. So again, you should list out numbers that they multiply to on top. So for example, 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 4 and 6. Keep listing those out. Then on bottom, you got to figure out, hey, can I make 10 out of 1 and 24 adding them together? No, you can't. So 1 plus 24 doesn't work. 2 plus 12 is 14. That doesn't work. 4 plus 6, however, 4 plus 6 is 10. Again, we can do 4 plus 6 is 10. We can also do 4 times 6 is 24. So we are good to go on that one. Okay, last one. We are looking for numbers that multiply to 14 and add to 9. So 1 and 14 or 2 and 7. Hopefully you realize that 2 plus 7 is 9, and 2 times 7 is 14. Okay, we have 3 more for today, and then we are finished. So now we're doing the exact same thing, but we're going to add just a little bit more to it. Multiply up top, add on the bottom. So now we're looking for numbers that multiply to negative 15. So first of all, ignore the negative. So we know that 1 and 15 make 15, and 3 and 5 make 15. I'm going to change this, actually. I want a 2 here, not a 3. Sorry about that. Okay. So we got to figure out, okay, so I want a negative 15. If I want a negative 15 up top, I know that one of the numbers has to be positive and one of the numbers has to be negative, because a positive times a negative is a negative. So if I did 5 minus 3, 5 minus 3, that gives me 2. If you do 5 times negative 3, that gives you negative 15. Okay, let's move on to the next one now. Okay, so we are looking for a numbers that multiply to negative 32, and now they got to add to be a negative 4. So what are numbers that multiply to negative 32? Well, 1 and 32, 2 and 16, 4 and 8. But again, it needs to multiply to be a negative 32. So what that tells us is one of the numbers has to be negative and one has to be positive. Okay, so what we need to do is figure out, well, which first of all, which one can I make 4 out of? Can you make 4 out of 1 and 32? 1 plus 32 is 33. 1 minus 32 is negative 31. So no, I'm not even close there. What about 2 and 16? 2 plus 16 is 18. 2 minus 16, that's negative 14. That's not going to work. Last but not least, we have 4 and 8. Well, 4 plus 8 is 12, but 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So what we just said was 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So 4 and negative 8. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. But then also, because we listed out the factors of 32, 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. So now this is my final answer to this problem. Okay, last up, we have 20 and negative 12. So they got to multiply to 20, but add to be negative 12. So they got to multiply. Let me write this out. They got to multiply to be positive and add to be negative. So what are the only numbers that multiply to give you a positive number? Well, you could do a positive times a positive. Positive times a positive gives you a negative. Or you could do a negative times a negative. A negative times a negative give you a positive answer. Now, if we want them to add to be negative, the only numbers that add to be negative would have to be a positive and a negative, or a negative and a negative. So what that tells us is that both of our numbers have to be negative. Again, because they multiply to a positive, they need to multiply to be positive and add to be negative. So what numbers add to negative 12 and multiply to 20? Well, let's just start by listing out numbers that multiply to 20. 1, 20, 4, 5, 10, and 2. And remember, we decided that both of these have to be negative. So what I'm going to do is slap a negative in front of all of these. So out of these three combinations, I'll try to color code them. Out of blue, yellow, and green, which ones add to be negative 12? Well, negative 10 minus 2 is negative 12. Okay, I hope that helps, and I will talk